Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. My name is Hina Siddiqui. I like to welcome you in this interactive video. For understanding the subject of orthodontics, you need to know different types of tooth movement that can take place by using fixed and movable appliances. So, this video lecture is about different types of orthodontic tooth movement. The objective of this full lecture is by the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand different types of tooth movement in orthodontics and describe various tooth movements on the basis of center of rotation. So we will be discussing the six basic types of tooth movements, which includes tipping, translation, rotation, root movement, intrusion, and extrusion. So let's briefly describe the meaning of these words. Tipping indicates that the root and crown moves in the opposite direction. Like in this animation, crown is moving palatally, whereas the root is moving buccally. Another type of movement is translation. It is also called as bodily movement of the tooth. Both crown and root move in the same direction, like this. Another type is rotation. It happens along the long axis of the tooth, in which buccal cusp is moving in one direction and lingual cusp is moving in the opposite direction. Root movement or root uprightening, also called as torque, is the movement of the root which can be in buccal or palatal direction. Intrusion, as the name indicates, it is the apical movement of the tooth, like this. Extrusion is the incisal or occlusal movement of the tooth, like this. Now, we will discuss difference of center of resistance and center of rotation. Before proceeding further, I have a question for you all. So, the center of resistance is a stable or stationary point. It is determined by the portion of the root embedded in the bone. It is actually the center of the root portion which is embedded in the bone. And center of rotation, it always displaces. It can be modified with the type of tooth movement. It is actually the center at which rotation takes place. Now we will be discussing these tooth movements in detail. Tipping. It is the simplest type of tooth movement when a single force is applied, that is, can be removable appliance or with a fixed appliance. It can be controlled or uncontrolled. So, we will first see the center of resistance and rotation before further explanation of these movements. Here, in all these pictures, blue circle will be representing the center of resistance, which will be fixed and not change, and green circle will represent the center of rotation. In uncontrolled tipping, as you can see in this picture, the center of rotation is very close to the center of resistance. So, when this type of tooth movement happens, as the center of rotation is very close to the center of resistance, the crown will move in one direction and the root will move in the other direction. That is, the crown will be moving palatally, whereas the root is moving buccally. In controlled tipping, as you can see that the center of rotation is moved more apically. That is, it is moved apically from the center of resistance. So the rotation will be around this center and the root will move less buccally as compared to the uncontrolled tipping. And the sole movement will be of more, crown. So before we proceed further, I have one more question for you all. Which of the following tipping movement is desirable? Uncontrolled tipping or controlled tipping? Let's see the let's move towards the further explanation of these movements on the basis of the force distribution or the areas of compression. where uncontrolled tipping is happening as the pressure is concentrated at apex and the alveolar crest. So the areas of compression will be at the apex and the alveolar crest, which is represented by the blue triangles here. So the amount of force required for this type of tooth movement is around 35 to 60 grams. So if, as I asked earlier, that which of the movement is desirable? If uncontrolled tipping is more happening, you cannot control the tipping movement, there will be lead to an undesirable consequence, that is the fenestration of the alveolar bone. So uncontrolled tipping is never desirable. Now moving to the another type of tooth movement, which is translation. Here you can see that the center of rotation has been moved towards the infinity. It is the bodily movement. So the areas of compression moving towards the force distribution of this tooth movement, the areas of compression shows a wider area on the palatal side. So here the force is also required will be double than the that of the tipping movement, as the whole area as the areas of compression is very much greater. It's around double the tipping movement. It is 70 to 120 grams force is required for this type of a movement. Now moving towards rotation, which are happening around the long axis of the tooth. It is similar to the tipping tooth movement. The force required for this type of tooth movement is same as 35 to 60 grams. Let's move towards the root movement. In root movement, as you can see, the center of rotation is moved towards incisal area to achieve the pure root movement or torque. The force required for this movement is also a bit greater than the tipping movement, as the more pressure is concentrated around the areas of the apex, which is around 50 to 100 grams. Now, let's move towards the intrusion. Intrusion is the apical movement of the tooth, and so the area of compression is concentrated to very small area at the apex of the root. So the force required for this type of tooth movement will also be very less, that is 10 to 20 grams. Achieving this amount of achieving this amount of force by the orthodontic appliance for this type of tooth movement is very difficult. Another type of tooth movement we briefly discussed was extrusion. Here, as you can see that there are no areas of the compression in the PDL. Only tension is seen in the entire PDL area. So the force required for this type of tooth movement is also around 35 to 60 grams. Before concluding my session, I assume all of you have better understanding of this topic of tooth movements. Now, I have a quiz for you. Please solve this. So the books which I recommend for further reading to have better understanding of such tooth movements and biomechanics is Contemporary Orthodontics by William Prophet and Current Principles and Techniques by Graeber. Thank you.